Like a silver streak across the midnight sky, our stories move with a brilliance and speed you will never forget. Experience high-octane drama and the thrill of a narrative that never slows down for anything. Click subscribe now and catch the streak before it disappears into the dark.
The week my brother's engagement party happened without me, I had just signed a contract worth $31,000. I didn't tell anyone in my family that. I didn't tell them that the Aldermans, one of the oldest families in Scottsdale, had hired my company to handle their daughter's graduation celebration, or that the deposit alone covered 3 months of my studio rent. I just sat in my car outside the nail salon where I work, where I had worked for 7 years, and read the text my mother sent. "Sweetheart, your brother wants this to be more of an intimate gathering. You understand, right?" I understood. I understood perfectly. Let me back up a little. I'm 31 years old. I do nails. Not just nails. I also do elaborate nail art, bridal packages, editorial sets that have been featured in 2 regional wedding magazines. But in my family's eyes, I do nails. As in, I sit in a strip mall and paint people's fingers. As in, I never finished my business degree. As in, I am the daughter who chose the wrong path. My brother is 4 years older than me. He works in commercial real estate. He wears suits that cost more than my monthly grocery bill, and he has the kind of confidence that comes from never once being doubted by the people who raised you. My parents have always led with him. At Thanksgiving, they ask about his deals first. At Christmas, they put his name first on the card. And yes, I know that sounds small. But when you're the second name on everything for 31 years, you start to feel it. When he called to tell us he was engaged, my mother cried happy tears on the phone for 40 minutes. I know because I was on the call too, mostly listening. His fiancée, I'll call her what she is, which is a woman who arrived fully formed into my family and immediately started rearranging things. Works in wealth management. She has a master's degree. She volunteers on 3 nonprofit boards. She is, by every metric my mother has ever used to measure a woman's worth, everything I am not. I met her twice before the engagement party. The first time, she asked me what I did. I told her. She said, "Oh, that's fun." The way people say things when they have immediately filed you under irrelevant. The second time, she didn't ask me anything. She talked to my brother, and then to my mother, and then she refilled her wineglass and started a new conversation. I wasn't angry. I was used to being looked through by people like her. What I wasn't used to was my own mother being the one to deliver the message. "It's not that anyone has a problem with you," she said, when I called her after the text. "It's just, she's coming from a very specific background, and your brother wants everyone to be on the same page professionally. And, Mom, it's just one evening, and we thought it might be easier." "Mom, stop." She stopped. "You're telling me I'm not invited to my brother's engagement party because of what I do for work?" A pause. "I'm telling you the timing isn't right." I didn't fight her on it. I knew what fighting her would get me. A circular conversation that ended with her saying she was just trying to keep the peace, and me feeling worse than when I started. So I said okay. I said I understood. I said I'd talk to her soon. Then I hung up and sat in my car for a very long time. Here's something people don't know about doing nails for 7 years in the same city. You know everyone. You know the women who run the school board, and the ones who run their husbands. You know who just got divorced and who is about to. You know whose daughter is getting married and whose son just got out of rehab. You are, in many ways, the most connected person in any room. You're just never invited to the rooms where that would matter. I had been doing nails at the same salon since I was 24. I was good at it. I was better than good. I had a wait list. I had clients who drove 40 minutes each way to see me specifically. I had learned everything I knew from a woman named Dolores, who had owned 3 salons before she retired, who had the steadiest hands I have ever seen and 0 patience for self-pity. You want to cry about it or do something about it? That was her answer to almost everything. I'd been doing something about it quietly for 2 years before the engagement party. I had started taking clients for at-home bridal parties on weekends, me and a kit and a collapsible table, driving to hotels and houses to do the whole wedding party's nails the morning of. Then I started partnering with a makeup artist, a woman I'll call Rhonda, who had her own following, and a van, and a way of making people feel like they were the only person in the world who mattered. Together, we started getting booked for bigger events. Corporate retreats, product launches. A bachelorette weekend that got posted about by someone with 80,000 followers, which led to 6 more bookings. I had not told my family any of this. I don't know exactly when I made that decision. I think it was gradual. Every time I tried to share something, the response was polite but distant. The way people respond when they don't quite believe what you're telling them. My mother once said, "That's nice, sweetie," when I told her I'd been featured in a bridal magazine, and then immediately pivoted to asking if I had considered going back to school. After a while, I stopped volunteering information. The month before the engagement party, I had registered my company officially. 93 Beauty, named for the year my grandmother came to this country with $40 and a suitcase. I had a website. I had a business account. I had a logo I paid a real designer to make. I had in my savings account more money than I'd ever had in my life. None of that changed the fact that my mother had called me the night before my brother's engagement party to tell me the timing wasn't right. I went to the movies by myself that night. I watched something I don't remember. I ate popcorn and I did not cry, which felt like a small victory. In the weeks after, I threw myself into work. Rhonda and I picked up a booking for a high-end resort spa event in Sedona. A women's wellness retreat for a pharmaceutical company. 40 attendees, 2 days. It was the biggest contract we'd ever handled. We brought in 2 more technicians to help. We were there from 7 in the morning until 8 at night for 2 consecutive days, and at the end of it, the event coordinator pulled me aside and said she had a colleague who ran a different kind of event. Would I be open to a conversation? I said yes. The colleague was a woman named Sylvie, mid-50s, silver hair, the kind of person who schedules everything 3 months in advance and replies to emails within 12 minutes. She ran luxury private events, charity galas, corporate anniversary dinners, retirement celebrations for the kind of executives who wanted everything to feel personal. She had a roster of vendors she trusted, and she was looking to add a beauty and wellness component to her packages. We met at a coffee shop near her office. She asked me about my background, my capacity, my pricing. I answered everything directly. At the end, she slid a card across the table. "I have something coming up in 6 weeks," she said. "It's a significant event. Let me know if you want in." I called her before I'd even pulled out of the parking garage. The event was a private charity gala for a children's hospital foundation. 120 guests. Held at a historic estate on the east side of the city that I'd driven past 100 times and never been inside. Sylvie wanted a beauty lounge. A dedicated space where guests could get touch-up services, hand treatments, quick consultations. Something that felt like a spa, not a booth. Something elevated. We had 4 weeks to prepare. I pulled in Rhonda and 3 other technicians I trusted. I designed the space layout myself, sourced the product line, wrote the service menu. I was there the morning of the event at 8 a.m., overseeing setup, adjusting lighting, making sure everything was exactly right. By 6 o'clock, when the guests started arriving, the lounge was beautiful. I know because Sylvie walked in, looked around, and said, "This is exactly what I wanted," and then walked back out without another word, which from her was the highest possible praise. I wasn't in the main event space. I was running the lounge, moving between stations, making sure the team was okay, handling anything that came up. I wasn't thinking about my family. I wasn't thinking about the engagement party. I was just working, which is what I do when everything else feels impossible. Around 8:30, one of my technicians caught my eye from across the room. "There's a woman at Station 2, she said quietly when I got to her. "She keeps asking to speak to whoever's in charge." I walked over. The woman at Station 2 had her hands resting on the table, half done, and she was my brother's fiancée. She didn't recognize me at first. I was in my work clothes, black, professional, hair pulled back, and we'd only met twice. And I was, as I said, the kind of person she tended to look through. Then she did recognize me. I watched her face go through something I don't have a single word for. Surprise, yes, but also recalibration. The expression of someone who has just received information that does not fit the shape of what they believed. "Oh," she said. "Hi," I said. "Is there something I can help you with?" She looked around the lounge. At the display, the lighting, the other technicians, the Sylvie-approved product line. Is this yours?" 93 Beauty, I said. "We're providing the full beauty and wellness experience tonight." A pause. "My brother didn't mention." "He probably doesn't know," I said. "Can I finish your treatment, or would you prefer one of my technicians?" She was quiet for a moment. Then she said she'd like me to finish. I did. My hands were completely steady. Dolores would have been proud. I didn't seek out my brother that night. I wasn't there to make a point. But sometime after 9, when the lounge had quieted and I was restocking a display near the entrance, he appeared in the doorway. He looked at me the way my brother almost never looks at me, like he was actually seeing me. "This is yours?" he said. "Yeah." He looked around again, slowly, taking in the thing I had built in a room full of people he respected. "You should have told me," he said finally. "You didn't ask?" He didn't have anything to say to that. I know because he just stood there for a while, and my brother always has something to say. My mother called the next morning, early 7:15, before I'd had coffee. "I heard you were at the gala last night," she said. I was working. A pause that was longer than it needed to be. "Your brother told me about your company," she said. "He showed me the website." "Okay. One daughter is a doctor." I thought about that. I thought about every time I'd tried to share something and been met with polite disinterest. I thought about the bridal magazine. I thought about "That's nice, sweetie." I thought about sitting in my car outside the nail salon reading a text that said, "You understand, right?" "I wasn't sure you'd be interested," I said. My mother was quiet for a long time. Long enough that I thought maybe we'd been disconnected. "I'm sorry," she said. Not, "I'm sorry you feel that way." Not, "I'm sorry if you got the wrong impression." Just, "I'm sorry." 2 words in my mother's voice, early in the morning, and I hadn't known until that moment how much I'd needed to hear them. I didn't say it's okay, because it wasn't entirely okay. Not yet. "Thank you," I said instead. "Let me come over for dinner sometime. I'll tell you everything. I want to say here, because I think it matters, and because I don't think stories like this always say it, that I'm not sure the version of me who failed would have been any less deserving of that apology. If 93 Beauty had never taken off, if I was still just sitting in the strip mall salon with my waitlist and my kit and my 7 years of expertise, if my brother had walked into a room and found me working a regular booth at a regular event, not running the whole lounge, I would have still deserved a seat at his engagement party. My mother would have still owed me those 2 words. Success made it impossible for them to look away, but it shouldn't have required success. That's the thing I think about now, when I think about that night. The gala just made it louder. The truth had been there the whole time. 3 months after the gala, Sylvie brought me on as a preferred vendor for all her events. The contract is ongoing. Rhonda and I have since brought on 2 permanent employees. We did a New Year's gala at the same estate, and this time I was in the main event space for the last hour, standing with a glass of sparkling water, watching the room. My brother's fiancée found me near the end of the night. She was leaving, coat already on, and she stopped beside me. "I told my mother about you," she said. "She runs a foundation. They're looking for wellness vendors for their spring symposium." She handed me a business card. I took it. "She'll reach out when they're ready to start planning," she said. I told her you were the one to call. She left before I could say anything. I looked down at the card. Then, I put it in my pocket and went back to watching the room. The room I had built, the room I had earned, the room that had been here the whole time, waiting for me to find my way in. I keep thinking about Dolores's hands. She had worked in salon kitchens, that's what she called them. Kitchens. Because she said the work was the same. Prep, precision, timing, heat, for over 30 years before she retired. Her hands never shook. Not once. And when I was 24, and brand new and terrified of getting something wrong, she didn't reassure me with words. She just kept working, and she let me watch. And eventually I understood that steadiness isn't something you're born with. It's something you practice until it becomes the only option. I think about that a lot now, about what it actually takes to become steady. There's a version of this story where I spent those years being bitter, where every family dinner felt like a verdict, where my brother's success and my mother's enthusiasm for it became a measuring stick I was always failing to reach. I won't pretend that version didn't exist. It did, some nights more than others. But bitterness takes up space that could be used for something else. I had work to do. I had clients who drove 40 minutes to sit in my chair. I had Rhonda, who believed in what we were building before there was anything concrete to believe in. I had a name, 93 Beauty, that reminded me every single day what this was actually about. What I've come to understand is that the choices we make when no one is watching are the ones that determine everything. Not the big dramatic moments. Not the gala. Not the conversation in the lounge. Not my brother standing in the doorway looking at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Those moments only happened because of the 1,000 smaller ones before them. The 5 a.m. wake-ups. The weekends spent in hotel rooms doing bridal parties instead of sleeping in. The decision over and over again to keep going when it would have been easier to stop. That's the thing about integrity. The real kind, not the performed kind. It doesn't need an audience. I wasn't building 93 Beauty to prove something to my family. I was building it because it was mine, because I was good at it, because Dolores had shown me that skill and care and showing up fully are worth something, regardless of whether anyone around you recognizes that yet. And the intelligence piece, not book intelligence, not degrees on a wall, but the kind of knowing that comes from paying attention. That's what kept me from making expensive mistakes. Understanding what clients actually needed. Reading a room, knowing when to speak and when to let the work speak instead. That night at the gala, I didn't make a speech. I didn't need to. The lounge said everything. One on know now, and what I wish someone had told me at 24. The people who underestimate you are almost never doing it because they've assessed you accurately. They're doing it because you haven't yet made it impossible for them to look away. That's not your failure. It's their limitation. But the answer to their limitation isn't anger. It's building something so undeniable that the truth eventually becomes louder than their assumptions. My mother said she was sorry. 2 words, early in the morning, no qualifications attached. I didn't say it was okay because it wasn't entirely okay, not yet. But I said thank you, and I meant it. And I told her to come to dinner so I could tell her everything. I think that's where it actually begins. Not at the gala, not with the contract, not with any of the visible wins. It begins in the moment you decide that your worth is not a negotiation. That you don't need permission to take up space. that the room has always been there, waiting, and the only thing left to do is walk through the door.